I stood frozen in my kitchen doorway, the ancient linoleum cool beneath my bare feet as my son's voice carried through the thin walls from the front porch. "Mom's place is just embarrassing," Brandon was saying into his phone, not bothering to lower his voice. "I mean, come on. It's like stepping into a time warp from the 80s. "No, we're not doing Thanksgiving there this year. Kimberly found this amazing resort in Aspen." My heart cracked like the old china I'd been setting out for our family dinner. The same china my mother had passed down to me, the same plates that had held countless holiday meals over the past 25 years. Have you ever felt invisible in your own home? Stick around to hear how I turned the tables on my ungrateful children and taught them a lesson they'll never forget. I'm Genevieve Hartfield. 63 years young, and until that November morning, I'd spent the better part of 3 decades making sure my family had a warm, loving home to return to. Our modest colonial in Portland's quiet suburbs might not have been featured in Architectural Digest, but it had something those glossy magazines couldn't capture. Memories soaked into every creaking floorboard, love painted on every outdated wall. My husband Richard passed away 10 years ago, leaving me with this house and 2 children who'd grown increasingly distant with each passing year. Brandon, my eldest at 38, had become a high-powered corporate lawyer in New York, married to Kimberly, an interior designer who wouldn't be caught dead, shopping anywhere but restoration hardware. My daughter Mackenzie, 35, had followed in her father's footsteps to become a doctor in Chicago, though she seemed more interested in her Instagram following than her patients these days. For 25 years, I'd hosted every major holiday in this outdated house. I'd spend weeks preparing, cleaning every corner, cooking family recipes passed down through generations, hanging the same decorations my children had made in elementary school. The dining room table would groan under the weight of turkey stuffing. Cranberry sauce and pies, always 3 kinds, because Brandon loved pumpkin, Mackenzie preferred pecan, and Richard had insisted on apple. I remember the early years when the children would burst through the door, eyes wide with excitement. "Mommy, it smells like Christmas!" Mackenzie would squeal, dropping her bags to run straight to the kitchen. Brandon would follow, more reserved but equally eager, asking if he could help roll out the pie dough. Those were the days when this house was magical to them. The slightly uneven floors were perfect for racing toy cars. The creaky 3rd step on the staircase was a beloved alarm system for Santa's arrival. The dated floral wallpaper in the bathroom was the backdrop for countless bathtub mohawk photos. But things had changed over the past few years. The eye rolls had started first subtle at the beginning, then increasingly obvious. The transformation had been gradual, like watching a time-lapse of flowers wilting. First came the subtle sighs when they walked through the door, then the barely concealed grimaces at my decor choices, finally the outright criticism delivered with that particular brand of condescension. Adult children reserved for their parents. Kimberly would run her manicured finger along the baseboards, checking for dust. "Genevieve, have you considered updating your color scheme? Beige is so yesterday." She'd say it with a smile that never reached her eyes. The same smile she wore when gifting me subscription boxes for cleaning products every Christmas. Mackenzie would sigh dramatically every time she tried to find a good angle for her food photos, complaining about the terrible lighting from my vintage brass chandelier. "Mom, I'm trying to build my brand here. Don't you understand how important good lighting is for social media engagement?" The flashbacks hit me like waves as I stood there, still clutching the gravy boat I'd been about to place on the table. Just last Christmas, Brandon had arrived late, barely acknowledging the effort I'd put into decorating. "Mom, you're still using tinsel." He'd laughed, not kindly. "Nobody uses tinsel anymore. It's basically environmental terrorism." I had spent 3 days decorating that tree, carefully, placing each strand of tinsel, remembering how he used to beg to be lifted up to place the star on top. Now he couldn't even appreciate the nostalgia of it all. Kimberly had spent the entire evening on her phone, occasionally looking up to wrinkle her nose at my furniture. "These chairs are so uncomfortable," she'd whispered to Mackenzie, loud enough for me to hear. And don't even get me started on the bathroom. I think that wallpaper is actually from the 70s. It's like a museum of bad taste in here. But it was Mackenzie who delivered the real blow. "Mom," she'd said, exasperated after I'd asked her to put her phone away during dinner. "I can't post any of this. Everything looks so vintage, and not in a cool hipster way. In a sad, my mom doesn't know about Pinterest way. Do you even realize how this affects my personal brand?" The memory dissolved as I heard Brandon's voice again, still on the porch. "Yeah, I know, right? The kitchen doesn't even have a wine fridge or smart appliances. And that oven. I swear it's the same one from when I was in high school. I tried to suggest updates, but you know Mom. She's stuck in her ways. Still thinks a microwave is high-tech." My hand shook as I set down the gravy boat. From the living room window, I watched my children through the lace curtains. Curtains Kimberly had called grandmother chic last Easter. They were huddled together on the porch swing Richard had built with his own hands. The same swing where I'd rocked them to sleep as babies, where we'd spent countless summer evenings watching fireflies and sharing dreams. Brandon was still on his phone, but I could see Kimberly and Mackenzie nodding along with whatever he was saying. Then Kimberly's voice pitched high with disdain. "I mean, at least at a resort, we won't have to worry about the plumbing making those awful noises or eating off chipped plates, and they'll have actual Wi-Fi, not that prehistoric connection. Jen insists is perfectly fine. Plus," Mackenzie added, "the photos will be incredible. That resort has a spa with a salt wall and infinity pool. Way better content than Mom's plastic-covered sofas." Something inside me shattered. The plastic covers I had put on the sofas were to preserve them, the same sofas where we'd cuddled for movie nights, where Richard had read bedtime stories, where I'd nursed both children through countless flus and fevers. I slipped away from the window and sank into Richard's old armchair, the leather worn soft from years of use. My eyes fell on our family photos lining the mantel. Brandon's first day of school, Mackenzie's ballet recital, family vacations to the coast. In every picture, this house stood in the background, steady and unchanging, a constant in their ever-evolving lives. How had I raised children who valued appearance over substance, who saw their childhood home not as a treasure chest of memories, but as an embarrassment to be avoided? Richard's voice echoed in my memory. "Jenna, home isn't about what's in it, it's about who's in it, and what we build together." He'd said that when we first bought this place, when it was even more run down than it is now, when we had more dreams than dollars. The front door opened and my children trooped in, all fake smiles and air kisses. "Happy Thanksgiving, Mom." Mackenzie chirped already, angling her phone for a selfie. "Oh, you're using the old china again." "It's tradition," I managed to say, my voice barely above a whisper. Brandon checked his watch. A Rolex. I noticed probably cost more than my car. "So Mom, about Christmas Kimberly and I were thinking." "Actually," I interrupted, surprising myself with the steadiness in my voice, "I won't be hosting Christmas this year." The silence that followed was deafening. "What do you mean?" Mackenzie asked, lowering her phone for the first time. "I mean," I said, standing up straighter than I had in years, "this house is clearly too outdated for your standards. You should spend the holidays somewhere more Instagram-worthy." Brandon and Kimberly exchanged glances. "Mom, we didn't mean." "Oh, but you did." I walked to the dining room where the table was set with my best china, the turkey golden and steaming, the sides arranged just as they'd always been. "Everything is ready. Shall we eat?" The meal was awkward, punctuated by stilted conversation and the scraping of forks against plates. Brandon kept checking his phone, responding to work emails. He claimed couldn't wait. Mackenzie took exactly one photo of her plate, frowned at it, then didn't touch her food. Kimberly pushed her green bean casserole around, mentioning twice that the resort served a deconstructed version that was simply divine. My famous pumpkin pie, the one Brandon used to beg for year-round, sat barely touched. "We're watching our carbs," Kimberly explained with that same false smile. "They left early. citing early flights and busy schedules. As I cleaned up alone, I found myself wandering to Richard's study, drawn by a memory tugging at the edges of my mind. Let us know where you're watching from today, and if you're new here, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to join our growing community. The study still smelled like him, pipe tobacco and old books. I hadn't changed anything since he died. Couldn't bear to disturb the last place that felt entirely his. His reading glasses still sat on the desk, marking his spot in a Tom Clancy novel he'd never finish. In the bottom drawer of his desk, beneath old tax returns and birthday cards, I found the envelope. My hands trembled as I recognized Richard's handwriting, for when you need to make our home special again. Inside was a cashier's check for $250,000 and a letter that made my throat tighten. My dearest Genevieve, if you're reading this, I'm gone, and knowing you, you've probably spent years taking care of everyone but yourself. This house has been our sanctuary, but houses need love too. Use this money to make whatever changes you want. Don't let anyone tell you what our home should be. Trust your heart. All my love. Richard. P.S. Remember what we always said. It's not about keeping up with the Joneses, it's about creating a space where love lives. But if the kids are giving you grief about the avocado bathroom, maybe it's time for an update. Just keep the clawfoot tub. That's where we gave them their first baths. I sat there for a long time, tears falling freely onto the letter Richard had known. Somehow he'd foreseen this moment when I'd need to reclaim, not just our home, but myself. The next morning, I made 2 phone calls. The first was to my sister Delilah, who listened quietly as I poured out everything I'd overheard, everything I'd been feeling. "About damn time," she said when I finished. "I've been waiting for you to wake up. Those kids have been walking all over you for years." Richard would be furious. "But they're my children." "Exactly. And sometimes children need to learn hard lessons. Remember when Brandon stole that candy bar when he was 7? You didn't just give him a lecture, you made him work to earn the money to pay it back, plus extra for the trouble he caused. This is the same thing, just bigger." The second call was to Vincent Carter, a young architect who'd recently renovated Delilah's cottage, the son of my best friend from college. Vincent had grown up coming to our holiday dinners. Unlike my children, he still sent thank you notes, Mrs. H., he answered warmly. "What can I do for you?" "I need help making this old house something special," I said. "But here's the catch. I want to keep its soul while giving it some modern magic. And Vincent, this needs to stay between us." We met at a coffee shop downtown the next day. Vincent listened intently as I outlined my vision. Keep the exterior largely unchanged, but transform the interior into something that would make my critics eat their words. "I want smart technology," I explained, "but hidden. I want luxury, but warm. I want it to photograph beautifully, but still feel like home." Vincent's eyes lit up. "Mrs. H., you want to create the ultimate sleeper house. Classic on the outside, spectacular on the inside." "Exactly. And Vincent, I want to do something special with Richard's study. Maybe it's time to let it change too." But thoughtfully. He reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "We'll make it perfect. A blend of old and new. Just like the best families should be." Over the next 3 months, I became a master of deception. When Brandon called to check in, I complained about the drafty windows and creaking floors. When Mackenzie FaceTimed, I made sure she saw the same old wallpaper she despised. I declined their half-hearted invitations to visit them for Christmas, citing a fictional book club commitment. Meanwhile, Vincent and his crew worked magic. We gutted the kitchen, but kept the original cabinets, retrofitting them with soft-close hinges and hidden smart technology. The countertops were replaced with marble that looked like the original butcher block, until you got close enough to see the subtle veining. We installed heated floors throughout disguised smart home controls in vintage-looking switch plates and, yes, added a wine fridge that looked like an antique icebox. The bathrooms were completely modernized, but clad in period-appropriate fixtures. The embarrassing floral wallpaper Kimberly hated was replaced with hand-painted silk that mimicked the original pattern but elevated it to artwork. We kept the clawfoot tub as Richard requested, but reglazed it and added a rainfall shower. Vincent found ways to honor the house's history while bringing it into the present. The creaky step on the staircase. We fixed it, but installed a custom music box mechanism that played a soft chime when stepped on, a secret delight for grandchildren. Someday, the uneven floors were leveled, but we added hand-scraped texture to maintain their character. My favorite addition was the reading nook by the front window, where we built a window seat with hidden storage surrounded by built-in bookshelves. Vincent added subtle LED strips that made the space glow like something from a magazine spread. Richard's study became a masterpiece of preservation and progress. We kept his desk and chair, but restored them to their original glory. The built-in bookshelves were expanded and modernized with hidden panels that revealed a state-of-the-art home office setup. The pipe tobacco smell was preserved in a special drawer sealed to release that familiar scent whenever opened. Throughout the renovation, I documented nothing on social media. Instead, I created a private group chat called Christmas at Jen's and invited everyone except Brandon, Kimberly, and Mackenzie cousins. Aunts, uncles, old friends, neighbors who'd watched my children grow up. I'm hosting a special Christmas celebration this year. I wrote, just don't mention it to Brandon or Mackenzie. They have other plans. As November turned to December, the RSVPs poured in. 30 people confirmed, all eager to see what I'd been up to. My house, once deemed too outdated, for my children would be filled with people who actually wanted to be there. The transformation was completed a week before Christmas. As I walked through the rooms, I barely recognized my own home. It was stunning, a perfect blend of vintage charm and modern luxury. The kind of place that would definitely go viral on Instagram. That evening, I had professional photos taken of the decorated house. The Christmas tree sparkled in the perfectly lit living room, showcasing a mix of vintage ornaments and modern touches. The dining table was set with the same china, now looking elegant against the new decor, and every corner was styled to perfection. I created elegant digital invitations featuring these photos and sent them to my guest list with the message, Christmas at the Hartfield House, where memories meet modern magic. Then I waited. It took exactly 6 hours. My phone rang Brandon first. Mom, I just saw Aunt Delilah's Instagram story. What's going on with the house? Oh, just some minor updates, I said casually. Nothing that would interest you. Minor updates? Mom, it looks like something out of Architectural Digest. When did you do all this? Recently. Anyway, I thought you were spending Christmas at that resort. Well, we were thinking maybe we could come home instead. Oh, I'm sorry, dear. I've already made other plans. The house is fully booked. The call from Mackenzie came minutes later after she'd seen Cousin Sarah's post about the upcoming most Instagrammable Christmas ever. Mom, I can't believe you didn't tell me about the renovation. This is exactly what I've been saying you should do for years. Is it? I asked innocently. I thought you found our house too outdated. That was before Mom. Please, we want to come home for Christmas. I'm sorry, darling, but this outdated house is fully booked with people who appreciate it as it is, or was. The pleading continued for days. Brandon offered to cancel their resort reservations. Kimberly suddenly remembered how much she actually loved the vintage charm. Mackenzie promised to document the whole celebration for her followers. I remained firm. On Christmas Eve, my house filled with the sounds of genuine laughter and appreciation. Cousins who hadn't visited in years marveled at the transformation. Neighbors brought dishes to share, contributing to a potluck that rivaled any resort spread. Children played in the snow outside, while adults gathered around the fireplace that now flickered with perfectly controlled gas flames. Every guest received a small gift, a custom ornament featuring a photo of a past Christmas at the house, along with a handwritten note sharing a favorite memory. Vincent arrived with his parents, and I made sure to toast him publicly for his incredible work. To the young man who saw the potential in this old house when others only saw its flaws. The evening was magical. We sang carols around the piano, restored and retuned, shared stories in the reading nook, and enjoyed a feast that combined traditional favorites with modern twists. The smart home system adjusted lighting throughout the evening, creating the perfect ambiance for each moment. As the evening progressed, my phone buzzed constantly with messages from Brandon and Mackenzie. They'd seen the flood of social media posts, the perfectly lit rooms, the gorgeous table settings, the happy faces of family members they'd neglected to visit in years. Finally, around 9 o'clock, there was a knock at the door. I opened it to find my children standing on the porch, their resort casual clothes looking distinctly out of place against the snowy backdrop. "We couldn't stay away," Brandon said quietly. "Mom, we made a mistake." I stepped onto the porch, closing the door behind me to muffle the joyous sounds from inside. "Yes, you did." I agreed. "You forgot that homes aren't about perfect aesthetics or social media appeal. They're about the people inside them and the memories we create." Mackenzie was crying now, her perfectly applied makeup running. "We're so sorry. Can we please come in?" I considered them for a long moment. "Not tonight. Tonight is for the people who never needed this house to be anything other than what it was." "But we're your children," Brandon protested. "Yes, and I love you both dearly. But love doesn't mean accepting disrespect. You're welcome to visit after New Year's. We'll start fresh." I hugged them both, then went back inside to my party, leaving them standing in the snow. The next morning, I woke early and sat in my new reading nook, watching the sunrise through the restored windows. The house was quiet now, but it hummed with contentment with the echoes of last night's laughter. My phone buzzed with messages from my children. Brandon had sent a long text, apologizing, sharing memories of Christmases past, and promising to do better. Mackenzie had posted a heartfelt Instagram story about learning what really matters, tagging me with hashtag Mom was right. The following week, I met them for coffee, neutral ground. They arrived looking humbled without their usual air of superiority. "We've been talking," Brandon began, "and we realized we've been horrible, not just about the house, but about everything. We got so caught up in appearances that we forgot what you taught us." Mackenzie nodded. "I deleted half my Instagram followers, started over with a new focus family. Heritage real moments. No more stage perfection." "And Kimberly?" I asked. Brandon smiled ruefully. "She's adjusting. Actually asked if you could teach her some of your recipes. Wants to learn to cook from scratch." They came for dinner that weekend, just dinner, not a performance. Brandon helped me in the kitchen, remembering how to roll pie crust. Mackenzie set the table with the good china, sharing stories about each piece. Kimberly arrived with a hostess gift, a vintage recipe box she'd found at an antique store. As we sat around the dining room table, I watched my children rediscover their home. Brandon ran his hand along the refinished woodwork, marveling at details he'd never noticed. Mackenzie took photos, but only after asking permission, and she included me in most of them. "Mom," Brandon said suddenly, "I need to tell you something. Last year, when I made partner, the first thing I thought was, I can't wait to tell Mom. But then I remembered how I'd been acting, and I felt too ashamed to call. Oh, sweetheart." I reached for his hand. "I'm always here for your victories." "I know, I lost sight of that, got caught up in this idea that success meant leaving everything behind, including where I came from." Mackenzie cleared her throat. "I've been seeing a therapist. She helped me realize I was projecting my insecurities onto you, onto this house. Every criticism was really about my own fear of not measuring up." We talked late into the night, really talked for the first time in years. About dreams and fears, successes and failures, the pressure they felt to present perfect lives in an imperfect world. Over the next few months, things changed dramatically. Brandon and Kimberly started hosting monthly family dinners at their apartment, using recipes I taught them. Mackenzie launched a new Instagram series called Heritage Home, featuring stories of family traditions and the importance of preserving memories. They visited more often and differently. Instead of criticizing, they asked questions. Tell us about this quilt. When did you and Dad buy this table? Can you teach us how to make Grandma's apple butter? For Mother's Day, they surprised me with a professionally bound book, The Hartfield House: A Family History. They'd interviewed relatives, collected photos, and documented every story they could find about our home. We almost lost this, Mackenzie said, her voice thick with emotion. Not just the house, but everything it represents. Brandon nodded. You taught us about gratitude by showing us what we'd taken for granted. It was the wake-up call we needed. That summer, we started a new tradition: renovation weekends. Not to change things, but to maintain them together. Brandon learned to repair the porch swing. Mackenzie helped me restore photo albums. Kimberly documented everything, creating a beautiful record of our family's reconnection. One afternoon, while sorting through the attic, Mackenzie found a box of their old artwork and school projects I'd saved. You kept all this? She asked, tears in her eyes. Of course, every macaroni necklace, every hand turkey, every misspelled Mother's Day card. They're treasures. She hugged me tightly. I'm sorry I ever made you feel like your love wasn't enough. The transformation wasn't just in the house, it was in our relationships. My children learned that heritage isn't about holding on to the past, but about honoring it while moving forward. They discovered that real wealth isn't measured in smart appliances or Instagram likes, but in the moments shared around a scratched dining table. A year after that fateful Thanksgiving, we gathered again. This time, Brandon and Mackenzie arrived early to help prepare. Kimberly brought her own contribution, a side dish she'd mastered after weeks of practice. As we sat down to eat, Brandon raised his glass. To Mom, who taught us that the most valuable things in life can't be updated, renovated, or replaced. They can only be cherished. Looking around the table at my family, imperfect, loving, and finally present, I realized Richard had been right all along. A home isn't about what's in it, it's about who's in it and what we build together. Sometimes the best renovations aren't the ones that change the structure, but the ones that restore the soul. My house got a beautiful update, but more importantly, my family got a much-needed reminder of what truly matters. The vintage brass chandelier Mackenzie once mocked now illuminates our Sunday dinners. The creaky floorboards Brandon complained about now announce welcome arrivals. The outdated kitchen they criticized now fills with laughter as 3 generations cook together. Have you ever had to teach your family a lesson about appreciation? Share your stories in the comments below. I'd love to hear how you helped your loved ones see what really matters. Because in the end, the most important updates aren't to our homes, but to our hearts.